Welcome you all, Swami Reacts. And today I'll be sharing some thoughts about the 40 Rules of Love by Elif Shafak. First of all, deep gratitude to my friend, Sister Kanupriya, for gifting me this book. I didn't know about the book. I didn't know about the author, which happened to be very well known, very famous actually. And it's a very interesting novel. I'm not so much accustomed to reading novels, to be honest, but of course, there is a place to read novels. It's very engaging, the storytelling and the structure of the book is very captivating and very dynamic. There are two different stories at the same time, from different times, 8 centuries apart, basically, but very deeply connected in principle, showing how many of these perennial patterns are manifesting different time, place, circumstance. So one of the main line, I will say the main story will be the friendship between famous Sufi poet Rumi and his friend, teacher, but friend, I will emphasize mostly, Shams of Tabriz. And how the relationship unfolds, how they get to know each other, how the connection between the two transforms each other, the importance of spiritual friendship, all that creates in the environment, as we will share a few words in a moment. That's kind of the main theme of the book. But there's a second story somehow connected to it, 8 centuries apart, more situated in our contemporary times, where Ella, a lady, family lady with her husband and children, living a life not very satisfying, and feeling she's not taking too many risks in terms of love. She contacts Aziz, who is an author, actually, contacts him through a book that she's requested to go through and check and edit and write a review. And somehow she finds very much call to the message of the book and call to the author of the book, and so on and so forth. I will try not to spoil the whole reading in this sharing. So again, it's very creative. There are multiple chapters, and each chapter presents the voice of different characters in the book, not only Rumi, not only Shams, not only Ella, not only Aziz, but many of the other in-between personalities that make up this story. Of course, it's a novel, so there is some fiction here. It's not that every detail of the life story between Rumi and Shams is accurately historical. There are some additions, as of course, some that has brought some criticism from backgrounds of like Sufi scholars that say this is not historically accurate, this is not fully representing Sufism. It's some kind of westernized adaptation of the Sufi tradition, so something is lost in translation, so to say. While I may agree with that, of course, everyone could agree with that. At the same time, I think it's a beautiful adaptation. It's a beautiful narration. It conveys many of the core teachings of the Sufi tradition in this case. So it's a page turner, I can tell you. I read this book in a very few days while being in my cabin in Switzerland some weeks ago. So I was particularly fascinated by the friendship between Rumi and Shams, as many of those who have read this book or who knew already about the relationship were, about the concept of spiritual friendship and how much each of us, especially those on a spiritual path, how much friendship is important. Of course, to have a guide, to guide others, but to have peers and equals and brothers and sisters with whom to share heart to heart, one to one, and get nourished, profoundly nourished, to find like-minded spirits, kindred spirits. That's so crucial. So we all know how crucial was Shams' appearance and Shams' role in Rumi's life, basically transforming Rumi from a scholar that he was to begin with into a poet, from a scholar into a mystic. That's not the same thing, right? You can be a scholar, have lots of knowledge, be a very charismatic, popular speaker, an author, even teacher, but that doesn't turn you into a mystic, into a passionate, mad lover of God, or into the poet that Rumi became as a mad lover of God. So Shams of Tabriz is credited for having created that particular page turner, so to say, in Rumi's life. And part of that, as it's in detail described here, is how Shams will expose Rumi from his aristocratic, refined, bubble-like environment of a celebrity in society, of a renowned scholar, prestigious, and dealing with the high class, the elite, government, and so on, taking him to the downtrodden, to prostitutes, to drunkards, taking him to situations that will break his reputation, basically, making him the poet that we now know. So it's very, and of course, Rumi's willingness to do so. Well, Rumi's deep trust in the love that there is between the two of them, for him to enter into these unexpected situations, trusting all this is for the sake of extracting my fullest potential, so to say. And the interesting thing is that the more the friendship and the love between Rumi and Shams developed, the more opposition started to come from in the environment, not only people in society, not only former students, but including Rumi's wife and other people close to the family, misunderstanding. Shams of Tabriz misunderstanding Rumi. Who is this Rumi now? This Shams came and transformed the Rumi we knew into a madman. We want the previous Rumi back. We want the older version that we liked, that it was satisfying to us, so to say. And again, that's a very important pattern that we see in the lives of so many saints and prophets and sages. No, they used to be a person and they become transformed by an experience, by contact with a guru, a teacher, a friend, whatever. And many people do not like that. Many people start to reject that person or their circumstance or people who transform that person, because now these transformed people, new people, is inviting the rest to be transformed as well. And most of us do not like to be transformed. Most of us do not like to change. We want to have our comfort zone considerable place, right? But as we always mention, love entails transformation by the other. If I open my heart to someone, I risk, if you will, to be transformed by that someone. So Shams of Tabriz was very instrumental in this, and then Rumi to, I don't know, one particular incident that came to mind at one point. The Sufis do not drink alcohol, for example. And he sent Rumi to a tavern to buy 2 bottles of wine. Rumi never bought wine, never drank wine. What to speak of entering a tavern, which is a place of ill repute. He is this great personality entering into a tavern, which is forbidden for Muslims, basically. And he says, yeah, I'm going. And Shams says, are you not confused by what I'm saying? Yes, but I trust the love between us. So that makes me dare to do that, take this risk, whatever that may be the price to pay. So he goes to the tavern, everyone is shocked. What is Rumi doing here? He asks for 2 bottles of wine. In the concept that he sits at a table with one drunkard and starts to talk, and again, be exposed to that reality, be exposed to that world, to those people, and connect with them. And eventually he returns with the 2 bottles, still not knowing what's the purpose of that, but thinking maybe, okay, Shams wants me to drink wine. Are you willing to break your vows? And at one point, Shams takes one of the bottle and pours the whole bottle, like watering one particular plant, and poetically it is described that a new blossom comes from there. And then he pours almost the rest of the other bottle just in another plant, which starts to blossom in a beautiful way. And there's just enough wine to put in the cup. And Shams drinks half of it and gives the other half to Rumi. And when Rumi is about to drink it, to break his vow, Shams takes the cup away and throws the wine. Like again, putting his friend and disciple to test and being in ecstasy, willing, saying, wow, how much love Rumi has, how much trust, how much willingness to break all the rules for the sake of the highest rule that should never be broken, which is love. And in one part of the book, Rumi is reflecting very interestingly. He says, before I had plenty of admirers, now I have gotten rid of the need for an audience. I'm in a totally different place. Blow after blow, he will say, Shams managed to ruin my reputation. Because of him, I learned the value of madness. So again, this was a very systematic, well thought out technique, so to say, that Shams created. And of course, before all this, Shams is having some visions and Rumi is having his own visions and dreams about meeting each other without knowing who they are. So eventually when they come and they recognize here is my soulmate, both of them are completely dedicated for the sake of nourishing each other's journey. And of course, it's not only Rumi the one who goes through a fire ordeal, but Shams as well. It is described in the book that when Shams enters Konya, the city where Rumi was living, the wind comes with a message to him. Says, "Oh dervish, Shams was a dervish. In this city, you will only find two extremes and nothing in between. No grace, only black and white. Either pure love or pure hatred. We are warning you, the wind speaks. Enter at your own risk. That's before Shams enters Konya to meet with Rumi. And how Shams thinks about that, he says, in that case, there is no need to worry. As long as I can encounter pure love, that will be enough for me. Even if the price for that is to also experience pure hatred, rejection, being killed, or whatever may happen, as long as pure love is there, let everything else come. So a beautiful narration. Eventually, of course, we know Shams dies, and Rumi starts to become a poet, especially after Shams' death. In separation from Shams, he rediscovers Shams through his poetry. Actually, many of the books Rumi writes are like written as if Shams will have authored those poems, like acknowledging his inspiration, especially in his absence. This union in separation is inspiring me to pour all this in this particular way. So the book is also divided into particular parts related to the main elements, water, fire, and so on. And there's a fifth element at the end, which is the void, according to the Sufis, the things that are present through their absence. So this is in connection to Shams' absence and how he becomes present. And Rumi becomes so inspired to write his poetry. A few one-liners that I like to share with you. At one point, the book speaks about God being closer to us than our jugular vein. A very interesting way of expressing God's proximity. Or Shams saying, I hunt everywhere for a life worth living and a knowledge worth knowing. Having roots nowhere, I have everywhere to go. Well, he was a wandering dervish, wandering mystic. So I'm only hunting for a life worth living, whatever that may happen. A passionate seeker of truth. Or he will say, whenever something needs to be said, I will say it, even if the whole world grabs me by the neck and tells me to keep quiet. Deep commitment to the truth. Whenever we see something and that needs to be said, at any cost, even if the whole world is in opposition, I'll do it. And that's basically the character depicted in this book. A few other quotes before concluding. One is, solitude is better than loneliness, as it means being alone without feeling lonely. But eventually, it is best to find a person, the person who will be your mirror. Remember, only in another person's heart can you truly see yourself and the presence of God within you. So this is referring to how Rumi and Shams will mirror each other, how we all long to have that mirror in life. One more quote that I really liked. One does not become a believer overnight. He thinks he's a believer. Then something happens in his life and he becomes an unbeliever. After that, he becomes a believer again, and then an unbeliever again, and so on. Until we reach a certain stage, we constantly waver. This is the only way forward. At each new step, we come closer to the truth. So, doubt and faith nourishing each other till we reach a point where there's deep, deep trust in the mystery, even in what we cannot know. But we are no longer unbelieving that. And something that I forgot to tell you, because you may be wondering at this point, but the book is called The 40 Rules of Love. So what are the 40 rules of love, right? So the 40 rules of love, of course, are ascribed in the book to Shams of Tabriz, though they are a creation of the author, Elif Shafak. She is one of the most famous female Turkish writer, from the research I did. So she creates these 40 rules of love, which are interspersed and quoted throughout the whole book, ascribed to Shams of Tabriz, which are very beautiful. I actually came to hear about the 40 rules of love before knowing about the book, that there was a book called The 40 Rules of Love. So first I had the idea, okay, there's some Sufi teaching found to be found somewhere. And eventually I realized they were composed by Elif, which are beautiful. I want, of course, share with you the 40 Rules of Love. Here you can even Google 40 Rules of Love, they will appear. But I like to share a few of them with you to conclude our sharing. One of them says, you can study God through everything and everyone in the universe, because God is not confined in a mosque, synagogue, or church. But if you are still in need of knowing where exactly his abode is, there is only one place to look for him, in the heart of a true lover. There is no one who has lived after seeing him, just like there is no one who has died after seeing him. Whomever finds him will remain with him forever. So the sweet absolute is everywhere, but if you are finding difficulty finding the divine everywhere, there's one place that is his official abode, the heart of the beloved. That's what our tradition always will say. Sadabo hridayam mayam, sadunam hridayam tuham. I'm in the hearts of my beloveds. They are my heart, I am their heart. Another rule. Intellect and love are made of different materials. Intellect ties people in knots and risks nothing, but love dissolves all tangles and risks everything. Intellect is always cautious and advises, beware too much ecstasy, whereas love says, oh, never mind, take the plunge. Intellect does not easily break down, whereas love can effortlessly reduce itself to rubble. But treasures are hidden among ruins. A broken heart hides treasures. So there is a price to pay for love. Again, love is willing to risk it all. In our tradition, we have the mood of parakiya bhav. The gopis of Vrindavan risking everything when hearing Krishna's flute, not thinking about themselves, their reputation, family, world, position in society, whatever may happen, they're willing to risk it all. At the end of the day, there's no risk because there is so much trust and love, but it feels like you are risking everything, and they're willing to do so over and over again for the sake of love. That's what makes love glorious and above even mere intellect. Two more rules allow me to share before we put this sharing to rest. Patience, that does not mean to passively endure. It means to be far-sighted enough to trust the end result of a process. What does patience mean? It means to look at the thorn and see the rose, to look at the night and see the dawn. Impatience means to be so short-sighted as to not be able to see the outcome. The lovers of God never run out of patience, for they know that time is needed for the crescent moon to become full. Beautiful description of what patience and impatience is, two qualities that we need to be very well aware of and know how to deal with them. So patience in terms of having proper sight in the short, middle, long term, and learn to trust the unfolding processes, the disclosure of reality. And impatience basically speaks, I'm not having enough sight to know what's coming, to trust what's coming. And one last rule that is beautiful, to the point that I will be including it in my next book on unconditional love. And I shared it recently. It's easy to love a perfect God, unblemished and infallible that he is. What is far more difficult is to love fellow human beings with all their imperfections and defects. Remember, one can only know what one is capable of loving. There is no wisdom without love. Unless we learn to love God's creation, we can neither truly love nor truly know God. This rule is Dorothy Day's version of her famous quote, right? I only love God as much as I love the person I love the least. So similarly here, it's easy to love God if perfect, all attractive, transcendent, all these qualities. Way more difficult to love fellow human beings in all their brokenness and messiness. But that's how we can show what love is, because love by nature should be unconditional. If I can only love what's perfect, then my love is limited and conditional. And I love this line. One can only know what one is capable of loving. Sometimes we may think, I have to know something or someone, and then I can love it. But we can turn it the other way around. If you have real love, you will love everything and everyone without the need of without entering into the technical details of knowing the person first. Let me know you first, and then I see if I can love you. By nature, the essence of everything is lovable. And by that loving, we can really know. That's the ultimate form of knowledge, as the Bhagavad Gita says. Raja Vidya, when speaking about love, this is the king of knowledge. So anyhow, a few of the 40 rules. There are way more, and apart from the rules themselves, a beautiful narrative, a beautiful set of parallel stories, very intriguing, very engaging, very recommended. 40 Rules of Love by Elif Shafak. Thank you for joining me. And if you have read the book, please share your comments in the comment section, or whatever inspiration that has come. But here in these words, please let us continue engaging in conversation. See you in our next session of Swami Reacts.